We're going to take you to Texas now, where Governor Greg Abbott is addressing school safety, more specifically a list of 40 recommendations that he and his staff have put together that he says would make schools safer in Texas. Let's listen.
$10,000 per campus. Now, another demand that consistently came up during our roundtable discussions was the need for more school marshals. As one Santa Fe student said at one of the roundtables, she said, and I quote, "Arming teachers and not knowing who is armed, that is what we need." Her sentiment was shared by many students and parents, and for a very simple reason. When an active shooter situation arises, the difference between life and death can be a matter of seconds. Trained security personnel can make all the difference. My plan increases the number of school marshals by training more school marshals this summer at no cost to schools, and by proposing increasing the number of school marshals per campus. Now, when schools go about the process of expanding campus law enforcement, my plan prioritizes the hiring of retired or off-duty law enforcement officers or military veterans who are already trained in the safe use of firearms. Now, another recommendation to help schools expand law enforcement presence on campus is for them to work with the TEA to prioritize what is an additional $62 million in federal funding that can be used for law enforcement patrols. I spoke with the Education Secretary DeVos last week, and she said that this money is coming from additional funding for the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant Program. Now, that funding can also be used for other campus hardening strategies, such as for metal detectors or other hardening strategies, as well as for mental health and counseling strategies. Now, when it comes to school hardening strategies, one of the most talked about was reducing the number of entrances as well as controlling the exits. It's very simple. You have to know who is coming into the school, and you have to know who's leaving it. Now, another school hardening strategy, which was new, something that we learned about in the aftermath, especially of what happened in Santa Fe, is the need to install active shooter alarm systems. These alarm systems would work separate and different from fire alarm systems. And the confusion is dangerous. As a teacher explained to me yesterday, she said that when the fire alarms went off in Santa Fe, it compelled teachers and students to react the way they were trained, and that is to exit the classroom, go into the hallway, and try to exit the school. Well, as soon as they went into the hallway, they encountered gunfire from the shooter, putting themselves in danger. And so there needs to be a way to distinguish from a fire alarm, which compels one strategy, which is to exit schools, and then a different type of alarm system for an active shooter situation, in which most schools train that you find ways to bunker down into your classroom, or perhaps other strategies. Now, the plan that I am providing today also recommends expanding active shooter training and offers the program free of charge for the remainder of this calendar year. And another concern repeated at the roundtables was the need to prevent people from becoming shooters in the first place. And we provide in here several recommendations that help to achieve that goal. One recommendation is to expand the telemedicine, wellness, intervention, triage, and referral project. This is a project that is headed up by Texas Tech University. The program uses mental health screenings to identify students at risk of committing violence, and then connects them with professionals for counseling as well as for further evaluation. It's known as the Twitter program, and it's used currently at 10 independent school districts with great success. last week, on May the 23rd, it was announced that the program would be expanded to 12 additional school districts around the Amarillo area. Now, this program has identified and removed from schools students who posed an imminent threat of harm to others. This also led to other benefits, such as decreases in truancy referrals, as well as fewer discipline referrals to schools. My recommendation includes that Texas provide $20 million to expand this program even further, eventually making it a statewide program. Well, in addition to mental health treatment, the plan also recommends strategies to prevent threats from turning into violence. One of those strategies is to expand campus Crime Stopper programs. Along those same lines, we are also working to make it easier for students to anonymously report threatening or suspicious behavior with an upgraded mobile app called iWatch Texas. This app will go active next month. Another recommendation is to expand fusion centers in Texas. These fusion centers help to identify threats that appear on social media and will help law enforcement to intervene before violence occurs. You know, it seems that after every one of these mass shootings, there were advanced warning signs that appeared on social media. We want to be able to view and aggregate and track those warning signs and use those warnings to disrupt the threat before it causes harm. Another recommendation is to improve school safety by way of removing threatening students from the classroom. Last session, I signed a law to remove teachers who assault students. Now I'm recommending a law to remove students who threaten teachers or other students. Finally, we must take steps to enhance gun safety in the state of Texas. Now, I doubt there's been a Texas governor with a more pro-gun record than myself. When I was the Attorney General, I helped to defend the individual right to keep and bear arms in multiple cases. I also did things such as authorize concealed handgun reciprocity agreements with more than 20 states. As governor, I've signed landmark pro-gun legislation every session. And I can assure you, I will never allow Second Amendment rights to be infringed. But I will always promote responsible gun ownership. And that includes keeping guns safe and keeping them out of the hands of criminals. Under current firearm storage law, child means a person younger than 17 years of age. Well, the murderer at Santa Fe High School was 17 years old, and thus his parents were not required by law to safely store their firearms. Changing the definition of child to include children aged 17 and younger would promote safer storage of firearms. Well, to keep guns out of the hands of criminals, my plan recommends that gun owners report when their firearms are lost or stolen. Reporting stolen firearms makes it easier for law enforcement to be able to identify firearms that are possessed by criminals. To more safely keep firearms out of the hands of people legally adjudicated to be mentally unfit to have a gun, Texas should require that courts report that mental health adjudication within 48 hours after it is issued, rather than the current 30-day time period to report that adjudication. When a court has rendered a person ineligible to purchase a firearm, that 30-day delay in reporting the mental health adjudication could prove deadly. Finally, I'm asking the Texas House and Senate to consider mental health protective order procedures that would allow law enforcement, a family member, a school employee, or a district attorney to file a petition in court seeking the removal of firearms from a person proven to be dangerous to himself or to others. Such removal could only be allowed after full due process is provided and only for a specified limited time. Now let me conclude by saying this, and that is this plan, only a few items of which have I mentioned today. This plan is a starting point, not an ending place. It provides strategies that can be used before the next school year begins to keep our students safe when they return to school. This plan identifies $120 million in potential funding to begin this important work. The plan also provides strategies for the legislature to consider. The strategy that I most strongly encourage the legislature to consider is greater investment in mental health, especially in crisis intervention counselors. As long as mental health challenges trouble our children, there will never be enough safety barriers that we can build to protect our students. If, however, we can address mental health challenges faced by our students, it will do more than just make our schools safer. It will also build a better future for those troubled students as well as for our state. This plan puts the state on a pathway to ensure healthier families, safer schools, and safer communities in the state of Texas.